Hey y'all, it's Steve, Hobo with Wood, and in this video I'm going to show you how I design my gift card box. Now I've got a couple different versions of this, but this is the design I'm going to show you today. And while this box may not have any practical purposes for you, it's designed just to be able to put business cards and or a gift card in there. The box itself might not have any practical purposes for you, but the techniques in this video may come in extremely handy in your future designs. So hang around. This is going to be a good one. Before we get started, a little disclaimer. This is a long video, but it is in real time with no edits. It's showing all of my goofs, all of my errors. I even had a moment where I went in complete brain dead and totally lost in brain fog. There's one area there where I'm trying to design part of the lid, and it was as simple as just subtracting the width of the material twice and then adding the tabs to it, and then but I was just lost in thought, lost in brain fog. So this shows my total creative process and how I put things together. There is so much in this video. The anchor tools, the booleans, the docking. There is so much information in this. This is for people who are serious about wanting to learn how to design in LightBurn, how to create your own fingers, tabs, and slots. So I'm going to get out of here now. I've been doing this. I'm actually putting this in after I've already filmed it. But disclaimer, it's a long one. You might watch part of it and come back and pick it up again. But I hope you enjoy. So I had a birthday party to attend, and my gift to the birthday boy was a gift card at a local fast food place, and they had it in a little plastic or paper envelope or little slide to fit in there, but I wanted to present it with something nicer. I didn't want to go buy a Hallmark card, and since I'm known for Hobo with wood and playing with the wood and creating things, I decided to make a unique gift card holder box. That's its sole purpose, was to be used as a gift box to present the birthday boy. So I created this from scratch, setting up the fingers, the slots, and tabs, and this may not be something that you can appreciate or would use or make. I think they're really neat. But learning how to do these techniques will help advance your creativity and being able to design your projects on bigger and better things. So let's jump into LightBurn and see what we have going on. I'm at a racetrack, not. Okay, so this is the file that I created that will generate that box. And it doesn't look like there's a lot there, but all the pieces are here and all the pieces are nested together. And that's another thing I'm going to show you as we get this thing finished, how to lay this out to minimize any loss and get the most of your material and to keep your project as uniform as possible. So we know we're designing this for a gift card. So that's the first thing you've got to determine is how big does this box need to be? Well, your average gift card is 86 millimeters by 54 millimeters. So I'm going to create a toolpath that fit that dimensions, 86 by 54. And that is your average gift card size. So I need to build a box that's going to contain this toolpath, and you can see there that it just does. So with that bit of knowledge, I'm going to create my first piece of the box. But now the next piece of information that I need is the thickness of the material I'm going to be making this with. Now, in my case, on this instance, I'm using material that measures 2.49 millimeters thick. 2.49 millimeters. And I want it to have just a little bit of slop, you know, so that the card's not having to be forced in there. So I am going to, back at the racetrack again. I'm going to create a box that's going to accommodate this card and a little bit of play using 2.49 millimeter material thickness. So I'm going to duplicate this box, Control D, and I'm going to go ahead, move it off, and put it on a cut path. Get out of there. There, cut path. Now I'm going to offset that. I'm still working in millimeters, and I'm going to offset it. It needs to be 2.49 for the thickness of the material, because when you look at the box, the card is going to be in between those tabs and slots. The tabs are sticking out 2.49 millimeters, so it's got to be 2.49 out there, and then plus just the slightest amount of play inside. So I'm going to offset this a distance of 2.5, and we're going to do it in corners. Outward to, there we go. Okay. So now, you can put that back on the toolpath. There is my gift card inside the box. Now, something else I need to think about is obviously I don't need the card to go completely inside the box. And if you look here, I've even created a little notch there to be able to grab the card out of there. So I'm going to, this is going to be the top. I'm actually going to bring, what am I going to do? This is creativity in process. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come right here. I'm going to node editing. And I've come to the middle. And actually, you don't even have to worry about being in the middle. If you come here to this upper line, and I'm intentionally staying away from the middle as far as possible, if I get that cursor to change there and just hit the letter M as in middle, it's going to insert a node, but where did it insert it? In the middle of that line. So it's right there. So now I can click on it and see how it turned red. That's the one that I'm working with. Clicked on that node, and now I'm going to hit the letter S. Now that just converted that from a line to a curve. S is for smooth. Now, so that I don't skew that and get it off center, I'm not going to use my mouse. I'm going to use my arrow buttons and just arrow down until I get to a point that I'm happy with where that's at. Now, if you don't want yours to have that continuous curve, you only want to do a little finger hole like I've got there. And that's easy enough. We're going to undo. We're going to do 2 more inserts. So we're still in node editing. Come back over here, and between the one in the middle and the corner, and hit M again. Come over here and hit M again. Now come over here and hit the letter S. And using the arrows, gotta select it first. Use the arrows and bring that down. And now you've got just your center section there. So that was simple enough, easy to do. Now, we're going to create some slots. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my rectangle button. I'm going to draw a rectangle, and I need it to be a height of 2.49 millimeters, because that's the thickness of the material, And I like my slots, and this is a kind of a personal preference thing. When I'm designing from scratch, from an aesthetics point of view, I like my tabs and my slots to be 3 times the width of the thickness. So if I come up here to my width tab, it was 2.49 times 3. That's 7.47 and 2.49 on my dimensions of that finger and tab. Now I'm going to rotate that. Well, I said I was. I hit the wrong place there. Alright, now select that, and I'm going to rotate that. And first thing I'm going to do is, actually I'm going, because I like to have my beginning tab, the first tab or first finger, I like it to be the width of 2 spaces of those tabs and fingers from its beginning. So actually what I'm going to do here is I've got that selected, and I'm going to take that height of 7.47, which is what 1 tab would be. Now I'm going to multiply that times 2, and I'm going to position it right in the corner and of this perimeter here. And to do that, you can do it a couple of ways. I've got that selected right now. You can hold your shift key and select just that outer square and tell it to align to the left and then align to the top, and now let's put it right in the middle. Another way you can do that is if you select just that toolpath that we're wanting to put there, you bring your cursor over here till you get your crosshairs in the corner, and now you can just drag it up there, and you watch what happens there. Once you get to the corner, your crosshairs change again, and that's got it right in the corner. Now that is the spacing from the top. I'm going to duplicate this, Control D, and I'm going to use my arrow buttons and bring her down. And now I'll do the shift and select that and align it to the bottom. So there's the space that I'm going to go from the top, and there's the space I'm coming from the bottom. I'm going to draw another rectangle, and this one will be just that 747. It's at 2.49. In this case, it's the width because I rotated it, and it was 7.47 is the height. Now there's one of the fingers, one of the slots, one of the fingers. Now I need to position it to where it is there. And now I need to see how many of those can I get between there and here. And you can do that a couple of ways. We can do it with the array tool. Coming over here, and we're going to select our rows. How many rows? That's 1. We want to give it a spacing of 7.47, which is the, oh, come on now, 7.47. Hit the right arrow. Nope. 7.47. Nope. Why are you not giving me? Oh, because you got to go the other direction. Reverse direction. There we go. There we go. All right, so it was going in the wrong direction. All right, so 7.47 is my Y spacing, and I'm going to put, in fact, just to make that easier to see, I'm going to put this on a different path for right now. We'll put it on the purple path. Come back to our array tool. We'll do our Y spacing of 7.47. Reverse that direction so we're going down and we increase. So there's 1, 2. I'm going to scroll out a little bit and so we can see 3, 4. All right, so we're not going to get 5 in there, but I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in my project because 4 was not enough. 5 was just a little too far. So what can we do? Well, you come back up here and well, that's okay. You see now I started to do the array. I'm sorry guys. I'm gonna do this. I'll do this two ways. I'll do that array over here, and then on the other side I'll do it another way. So it was 5 rows, and it was reverse direction, and it was a spacing of, initially it was, but actually this right here will work too. We know, because the spacing wasn't going to work, but we've created our 5. So okay, I didn't hit okay. Golly. 5. I'm thinking 3 steps ahead of what I'm doing and not paying attention to what I'm doing. Now say okay. Now that that's done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and position. That one's already in position. Now I'm going to put this one in position by dragging it down here from corner to corner to put it in that corner. Now with that selected, I'm going to select each one of these. And now I'm going to tell it to distribute selected objects vertically with even spaces between them. That's that button right there. Now what that just did was just move those to a perfect spacing, so now that they're nice and uniform. Now you can, instead of using the array tool, if you were to do the same thing over here, put that in its proper position, put this one in where it needs to be. We're going to copy one of these, Control D, and we're going to bring it over here and put it in place. And now we're going to do Control D 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That gives us 5 of those. So if I just move that up and come up and grab another one, move that up, grab another one, and I'm just using my arrow buttons, and the last one, and I'm going to take this one all the way up to where it needs to be, get my crosshairs, take her up to those crosshairs, and now that I've got my 5, I can just simply grab all 5 of them and hit that distribute vertically, and there, those are where I need them to be. So you don't have to mess with the array tool. You can, and if you know that your spacing, if you know what your spacings are going to be, you can use the array and just generate it right off there, right off out of the gate with the array. But since I needed to make those dimensions work, the array was not of any real value. But there are so many ways to accomplish the same thing, and I'm trying to show you as many tools as possible when designing a project. All right, now here I'm going to Control D, and I'm going to use my greater than, less than, also known as your period comma key, and just rotated that. Now here on the bottom, if I were to use here, again, the greater than, less than, rotate that. If I was to use that dimension on both sides of the bottom to do those tabs, those slots, those fingers, Control D, it's not going to look as nice or be as strong because it's too much of a gap to begin with to try and put those in. You'd only have 1 or 2 fingers right there, so that distance isn't going to work. So what I ended up doing was reducing this to, I think, divide it by 2, reduce it to half, put that in the corner, and here is a good chance to show you how to use your anchor points. All right, let's look at this shape, and I want to reduce that by half. And you've seen how I had to move this square a second ago after reducing it. But if I come up here to my anchor points, which are these 9 circles. Right now you see I have the center circle highlighted. If I select that center left circle as the anchor point, and then I come over here to divide this by 2, watch what happens to this rectangle. Tab. It stayed in position and just shrunk it down in that direction. I don't have to relocate it now. So now I can just simply grab this, bring this down, put it in place, Control D, 2, 3, 4, and let's see what we get when we start moving these in place. Select another one. Come on. Oh, I selected all of them, so I didn't want to do that. How many more are there? Let's see. Let's delete one. Okay, now let's put this back in position. And put this one into position. And select all 4 of those. And this time we're going to distribute them instead of vertically with this one. We're going to use this one on the outside to distribute selected objects horizontally with even spaces between them. Now I'm going to turn off my toolpath over here so you can see what I've got going on. Zoom out a little bit. Now turn off my toolpath. So now you can see that that's starting to resemble this. And if you wanted to increase your spacing here, you could do that, but you need to do it with both of them. But I'm going to stay with that spacing for now. Now this is what's important. These are going to be the slots, and they're going to, on this piece, but they also need to be the fingers on the side piece. So what we need to do right now, we need to select all of these, say Control D, move them out over here, and go ahead and put them on a toolpath. And we turn our toolpath back on so we can see them. And we need to do the same thing to the bottom. Control D. Actually, I don't need to do it that way because I got the other finger. There we go. Now Control D. And we're going to move it over here out of the way and put that on the toolpath. Now those are our patterns. In fact, I'm going to group these. Select and group. Select and group. That way they don't get shifted around or get bumped and out of alignment. Now I'm going to select all of these that I have on the purple. I can do that by simply selecting one, come up here to edit, select all shapes in current cut layer. And now I'll put it on layer 2, my cut path. I'm going to turn off my toolpath again. Now selecting all of that. Nope, that didn't work. Well, let's see. Let's try this. Nope. Because that didn't get all of the fingers. See how it missed that one right there. If they're not, which those were duplicated and moved in position, but I didn't have it exactly right. So you see that one got absorbed. So we're going to hit our undo. And I'm going to select that one again. And I'm going to hit shift and that, and I'm going to tell it to align to the bottom and see if that will resolve that issue. And I can check that real quick by simply just giving one of these here, and that did it. So that one wasn't quite on the bottom. When I moved it into place, it wasn't quite there, but now it is, and now it's good. But I'm going to show you another trick. In fact, I'm going to take this, undo this back to the point of that it didn't work. Let's try that. Well, wrong way. There we go. Try and, well, I didn't take it far enough, but I'm going to exaggerate it. Let's say you had one that was too far out of position for it to work. Another thing you can do, and this is what I would recommend doing at the end of this, is if you were to move this into position and if it was slightly below that and you ended up welding these all together, well, that one did it in the wrong way. Undo. Well, that's because we're doing slots and not fingers. I'll have to show you on the fingers, but let's align this to bottom. Oh, I just moved the whole thing. So undo, and we're going to align that to that. There we go. And now, actually, we can just select it all and weld that together. All right. Turn our tool paths back on. That piece is designed. That piece is ready. Now we need to select it, Control D, duplicate it, and we can slide it up out of the way. And now there's our front and our back. Now we need to come up with our 3 sides. Now I don't need it to be extremely thick, but we also don't want it so thin that these side pieces in here are so fragile you can't even assemble it, because you need a little bit of meat in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw what? A tool path. First thing, look at our piece here, and our height in this orientation is 91.1 millimeters. This one I need to make the same. So 91.1 millimeters, not the height, I need it to be the width because I've got it oriented in the other way. 91.1, and here on this being the height, our material is 2.49 millimeters thick, and I need to have 2 thicknesses, one for each layer, and then I need a spacer in between. So 2.49 times 2 for each, one for each finger, and then I'm going to give it, we'll give it 1.5 millimeters. So plus 1.5. So there is the thickness of the side piece. Now this is going to be, and I'm going to rotate that with my greater than, less than, select and rotate. And if I align this to the bottom, now select just this, and I don't know if I can do it with a tool path, but we're going to try it. We're going to use our docking tool and tell it to dock leftward, and it did work. But I've got my padding on, so you notice there's a gap right there. I don't want a gap right there, so I'm going to come up here and adjust my padding to 0, and now tell it to dock left, and now she's docked right up against it. Now here is my pattern that I need to make for those side pieces, and I need to have that twice on here, so I'm going to have Control D, and I'm going to move it up here to the center, aligned it to the top. Actually, I'm going to put it in the center of that. There we go. All right, so now that is in the center of it, but I need that to be docked inside here. Actually, that's going to be on the outside of that piece. So you can do that a couple of ways. You can do what I did earlier, where we select just that piece, and I'm going to grab the crosshairs right there and just drag it until I get crosshairs right there. And now it's in the proper position. Now I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate that. And using my arrow key, I'm going to take it out past that piece. I use the arrow keys, not the mouse keys, so I only moved it horizontally. Now with the padding at 0, I'm going to dock it leftward, and that's going to put it right up against the edge of that toolpath. Now I can actually, go ahead and select all of that. I don't know if I can get just those. Those are all selected. Let's move it. Nope, it didn't do it. Undo. Move that back. I'm going to turn off. There we go. Now select all of that. And I'm going to now put that on the tool path, or the cut path. No, I don't want to put it on the cut path. First, I'm going to move it out of the way so it's not butted up against the other one. Now I'll put it on the cut path and turn the cut path back on so I can see it. And now with that all selected, weld that together. And see, it did not get those pieces there. Now here's where I was going to show you that shortcut a minute ago that didn't work because they were tabs and not fingers. All right, so when I did the docking, when I docked those a second ago, it didn't get it all the way up there close enough for it to weld them together. So I'm going to hit undo. That's not undo, that's lock. Let's hit undo. There we go. Now, if I grab those and I take it inside like that, I know it's overlapping, but they're in the correct position. They're just too far in. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to move those in. They're positioned correctly, but now my length is going to be wrong. But if I select it all and weld it together, I've got no problem welding that together. And now I can actually come up here to my edit, or not my edit, my tools, and resize slots and tell it I now want it to be, actually, you know what? I need to look and see what the measurement was. What did it end up being? Right now, if I go in real tight, we can see that's 1.9 millimeters. So we say OK. And now we go to Tools, Resize Slots, 1.99 millimeters. And we need to make it 2.49 millimeters. And we got to look here. Right now, it's looking to change the slot depth. And if you see, the arrows show you what's moving. Well, the slot depth would move this in, but not move this in. So this part of that finger would be correct where that wouldn't. So you don't want to do slot depth. You don't want to do slot width. But if you look at tab height, that's what you need to change. So that's going to bring all the tabs out to 2.49 millimeters, give you the thickness of your material. And now if we move that into place, she's a perfect fit. Now we're going to duplicate that. Select, Control D. So now we've got front, back, and two sides. Now we need to get our bottom. So how wide is this piece? It is 59.1 millimeters. So we're going to draw a tool path. And it needs to be 59.1. And our height in this case is going to be the 2.49 times 2 plus the 1.5 millimeters extra, and that's the thickness. And now we're going to select this and say Control D, duplicate it. Nope, that's the wrong one. We're going to delete that. We're going to select this one, Control D, and move it up here. And if we select this and align it to the center, and now select it and dock it upwards, dock up, there we go. Now we hit Control D and bring it up. Now dock it downwards, select all of that, and go ahead and put it on our toolpath and weld it together. That one didn't weld, that one didn't weld. So undo, undo, there we go. Weld that together, edit. Actually, no, you gotta get that measurement. In this case, it's 1.99 again. So, tools, resize 1.99. We're going to do tab height to 2.49, and see that's only going to adjust those because those were correct. Okay, and if you want to make absolutely sure, you can look at your measurement again. See, is that 2.49? It is. That's 2.49. It is. Okay. So now there's the bottom. So now we've got front and back and 3 sides. We just don't have our top piece. And we'll check here to make sure that that's going to fit. She should, since we aligned it to center, and that's how we did it to begin with. Nice, good, clean fit. And now we're going to come down here, grab this piece, move it over here. I think we're done with all these tool paths. We'll go ahead and select those and delete that, delete that. I want to grab this one again, bring her back down here. Using my greater than and less than key, rotate that. And now I can just test fit this by putting it right there. Test fit this. Well, I don't have that corner. There we go. There we go. So that looks good. All right, so now all I got to do is come up with my lid. All right. I'm actually done with that, but I'm going to save all of those until I'm complete. Now the lid is going to have to be large enough to fit over this piece. So what is the measurement of that? It was 59.1. Yep. So let's draw what? Another tool path. And select and make her 59.1, but we need to make it large enough for it to go over that. And let's give it a, we want to be a pretty tight fit. So I'm only going to give it a 1/4 of a millimeter on either side, so 1/2 millimeter. So plus 0.5. Did I do that right? Yep. So now if I put this in position over here, like it's going to slide down on top of that. In fact, we can put the corner on that other corner. I'm looking to make sure I've got that finger slot covered. And let's see how this one was assembled. And I've got the slot stopping just, well, that's pretty darn close. And this is all just aesthetics. This has nothing to do with the functionality, just the look of it. I'm going to bring that up just a bit, about there. All right, now you can see there's a gap on this side and no gap on this side, but now if I hold my shift key, select that and tell it to go to align center, now you've got just the smallest of a gap. It's 0.5 millimeter on either side. Okay, so I'm liking that. Let's put that on toolpath because we haven't designed anything yet. That's just I didn't want to do all of it. Undo just that piece on the toolpath. Get it over here out of the way. All right, now again we're working with 2.49 millimeter wood. In fact, I've got these toolpaths down here, so I can actually just select that. I'm going to ungroup it, and I'm going to grab just one of them, Control D, and bring it up here. And I'm going to go ahead and hit Control D again. Let's take this, hitting my greater than, less than key, rotate that one time, and I'm going to put this in the center, so a line on its horizontal centers, and now select just that one, and I'm going to dock it. Oh, did it go? Yeah, it went all the way over it. Not dock. You can't do dock. Let's hit undo. When you're inside a piece, and in fact, let's take this over here just for a second. Right now I'm going to hit dock left, and you'll see it's going to come to that toolpath and stop. If I hit dock again, it's not going to do anything because it's already up against something. If I bring it inside of it and tell it dock left, you'd think it might want to go to here and stop, but in fact what happens is it docks. Docking is for the external alignment. So when you're inside of a piece and tell it to dock, it's going to shoot right through it and come until it comes into contact with its next hard surface, which in this case is the edge of the toolpath. And that's not what we want. So I'm going to come back over here, and I will now hold my shift key, and I'm going to tell it to align on the horizontal center, and then I'm going to align it to the left. So that puts that in position. Now I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate that, and I'm going to select just that and tell it to align right. So now those two pieces are done for the side slots, because these will be the slots in this piece. Now I need to come here, and again I want it to be about at least the distance of one tab, one finger. Like, so that right there would be not cut out. That would be the spacing. So I say Control D, can duplicate that, and I want my first one to be about there. So I can now take this, bring her down here, hit Control D, put her here. So that's about the distance and the spacing that I want those to be. How many am I going to be able to get in there? I got 4 in this on my actual finished piece. So I'm going to hit Control D again and move that there. Now select all of those. That's a little bit tight, I think. Even if I select them all and distribute those horizontally. Did they move? No, it's vertical. Horizontally here. Yeah, that's a little too tight. So I'm gonna bring it back a little. That was 2 arrow moves. That's 2 arrow moves. Now holding that one, select there, there, and there. Come on. And now select them on horizontal. Yep, horizontal. That's better. Now I'm going to select all these and tell them to align to the top of one another. And now that they're aligned, I can select the toolpath and align it to the top. And now those are in position. Put that on cut path and weld it together. And that looks good. So now I need to duplicate it, Control D. And there's two sides of the lid. Now I need to get the side piece, this little piece here, and now I need to get the top of the lid. All right. So let's do a toolpath. We're going to draw, I didn't want to put it down in a toolpath, we'll fix that. So we're going to draw a toolpath here, select, let's put that back on the cut path. Now we need another Control D, bring that up here, greater than, less than, rotate that, and now we're going to position this. Now how big is this got to be? All right, first we need to get our dimensions here of this, and the height is 12.576 millimeters. So we're going to make this one 12.576. 12.576 and 12.576. So that's the right height. Now the width, I wanted it to be a 1/2 millimeter gap between the two pieces. All right, so this is the side piece, and if I bring that out to where I can see it, yeah, that has a, in this case, a width of 11.46. So this is going to be 11.46, and then I wanted a 1/4 millimeter on either side, so plus 0.5 millimeters, and that'll give me the width of that lid. So now I can take this and align it in the, we're going to put it in the center, there we go, and now align it to the left. We're going to duplicate it, Control D, and align it to the right. Put it all on the cut path and weld it together. And there, nope, I did that backwards. I don't need a slot, I need fingers. So we're going to undo that. And in fact, I'm going to need, all right, this will be another good example to learn how to use all these tools. Because I did this to be exactly the size I need it to be, including the height of those tabs or the fingers. So first, let's put the fingers in position. We're going to do them on the horizontal centers. Now I'm going to select that one and I'm going to tell it to dock to the right. This one, I'm going to put it on horizontal center. And now I'm going to tell it to dock to the left. And now that, and weld it. All right, now that's the right shape, but it's not the right dimensions. I need this to be 12.576 height, 12.576 height, but the width, I'm going to unlock my aspect ratio because I need to keep my height the same, but I'm going to come up here to my width, and I'm going to make it the correct width right now, which was here, 11.46. 11.46 plus the 1/2 millimeter of play. But by doing that, it changed the height of the fingers. That's okay. We are going to now edit, or no, tools, resize slots and shapes, and see if we can change our tab height. Actually, got to get that measurement first. What is it? Ruler. I think this will work. I don't know. 1.76. Tools, resize, 1.76, and it needs to be 2.49, and we're going to do that and say okay. And now what did that do to our dimensions? 12.576. In fact, let's draw that out in a toolpath what I need it to be. .576, and then the width needed to be 11.46. 11.46 plus half a millimeter. So there is what it needs to be. And that's not what we got. So undo that. I was on the wrong one. .213. And instead of continuing to play with this, I'm trying to cheat and save and not having to back up, but I'm gonna back up and do it right. All right, so this is what I need it to fit. I need it to fit that toolpath. So I'm going to delete this. Delete, 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 delete. I'm going to duplicate that. Control D. I'm going to duplicate one of them. Bring it up here. Greater than, less than, and the greater than and less than key is your period comma key. But if you look at the direction that the period or the direction the greater than and less than are pointed, that's the direction it's going to rotate when you press those keys. So if you hit the comma key, which is your less than, it's going to cause it to rotate to the left. Being that it's a rectangle, it doesn't matter. You know, it's going to you have the same result which way it rotates. But if you had a multi-sided figure, all right. So I need this to be actually inside of that. So we're going to do this. This we're going to align center, or actually in the center, and now line there. I'm going to duplicate that, Control D. All right, now this will be a chance to show you Boolean tools, or Boolean Assistant. Now I've duplicated that, I'm going to select that, and I'm going to align it to the right. And I'm going to put all of this on a cut path. And I don't need, yeah I do, yeah I got 1, 2, yep. So there's 3 pieces there that are making up that design right now. If I select all of this, come up here to my tools, nope, it's not going to let me. Select 2 of these, they're going to let me do that. Range, tools rather. Now Boolean Assistant, and actually I take that back, you should be able to do that. I'm going to group these, select that one and nope, no I'm not. I'm gonna do individual because those have got to be, the fingers. So actually what I need to do is I need to come here And there's got to be another way to do this. How did I do it to begin with? Select, center, done. All right. There's another way to do this, I'm sure, but I'm just drawing a blank right now. My brain is fried, but there's the ultimate shape that I want. And I'm not quite there. And that's overlapping, but that's fine, but that's the shape I want. Now I can just select them all and weld that together. And now check my slot, check that height first. 2.49 and 2.49. And what is its overall? Okay, I need it to be 11.46 plus a half, so 1151. And what I say? 1146. Yeah, plus a half. 1146. So that's right. Duh. Okay, so that's what I need right there. Making that more difficult than it was. And I'm sure there are other ways to have done that. And I'm sure, because I don't remember struggling this hard to begin with. All right, Control D. So that gives me my two sides. That give me the right. Yep, that's good. And now I just need the top. Now the one thing I didn't do a minute ago, and I should have, and you guys have already sitting at home going, hey, Hobo, you forgot to make a copy of that. I needed to make a copy of that toolpath when I made those slots for that lid. But that's okay, because we know what the dimensions of those slots are. These are already ungrouped, so I'm going to Control D. We'll move this up here. And now I'm just going to move it into position. Hit Control D. I didn't hit Control D, I hit Shift D. Alright. Move it back into position. Control D. And arrow it over. Move it into position. Control D. Arrow it over. And move it into position. Control D and move it into position. Now select all of those and we're going to group those and we're going to slide it up out of the way. Now that will be the fingers for the top of the lid. And what did I do up there? Okay. All right. So now what I'm looking at is the top of it. I've got the four fingers there, but the width of that top of the lid is going to be the distance between the inside of that slot and the inside of that slot, or the total width of that less 2.49 twice. So that's easy enough to figure out. So right now it is 59.6 millimeters. So we're going to draw out a rectangle and we're going to put it on a, let's see, I hate this. It's like, Draw a rectangle. And I done forgot my dimensions. 59.6. 59.6, but it needs to be less. Subtract 2.49, subtract 2.49. So that is the width of the top of the lid. Now the height is going to be the width of this piece right here. So if I come to my ruler and get that measurement right there, at 6.98 millimeters. So, okay, and 6.98. Okay, now I've got to get my fingers and it's got to be, they have to be the same as there was a minute ago. I wish I could remember what I did the last time I was designing this. You guys help me out in the comments and remind me what I did, because I'm sure I did this so much simpler, and it's a whole lot. Right now I'm just going I got brain fog going on. So Control D, I've got those. I hit Shift D, Control D, move them down out here out of the way. All right, those are going to be inside like that. And first off, I know they need to be in the center, so subtract or center it up, horizontal center, align to the bottom, and I should have aligned those to the top a minute ago. Align to the top. Now, because that's all right. Wait a minute. Am I doing that wrong? Because that is, let's look. No, I did that wrong. I did it wrong in my head just now. Ruler, that is 6.98 and that's 6.98. So no, those are going on the outside. Okay. Oh, so just take it up here and dock it down, and take this one and dock that one up, and now put them all together and put them on a cut path, and now that's done. So now we just created that box. I had to go back and look at and when I cut this originally, I cut 3 or 4 lids before I got it to be the fitment that I wanted. So it's a little trial and error. You're going to have some waste when you're creating your first one and designing these. But we got there. We had a little bit of stumbling to do, but we got there. All right. Now, let's look at how to lay this out for the most efficient way to cut the box. I'm going to set these over here out of the way for now, and let's put that back into position. And let's look at our lid. Now our lid, I'm going to select both of these and I'm going to flip it. I'm going to mirror it like so. And I'm going to move it up. This one probably have to come down a little bit. I should have done both of them. Now let's take this one and put it in position. And let's put this one in position. here one more time. Done. Okay. All right, now what that's going to do is a few things. I'm going to pull this down here. I've got all of these laid out. I'm going to bring her down. And I'm going to bring this. Did I group those yet? Nope. Let's group those. And now we're going to group all of these. And now let's put them on center. And now I'm going to increase my padding by 1 mil. Or no, I'm not. I'm going to still leave it at 0. I'm going to leave that at 0. And I'm going to dock this piece, that group, I'm going to dock it upwards. So now it's positioned flat against that piece. But now I want you to look and imagine, if you will, the continuity, the grain in the wood that you're laying out on your workbed. You're working with a solid 12 by 12 or 8 by 12 piece of wood. And we're going to cut this so that the grain is continuous. And you want to also make sure that when you cut it, that your grain running horizontally continues to run horizontally on your lid. So if you were trying to conserve material and you had a smaller piece of wood and you had it oriented as such, just to be able to get everything all in position, and you had it like that, well, now your lid's not going to have the same. When you put your piece on, now you'll have that non-conformity or non-uniformity between your box and your lid. Nothing wrong with that, but that's the difference, in my opinion, between a $2 piece and a $5 piece. You know, it is just being able to attention to detail. So we put that back. And we're going to select, shift select, align it to center. Now we're going to do that and dock her down. So now that wood grain is going to continue to run all the way up and through the lid and through the piece continual. And when you're looking at your front and your side, at least on 2 of them, that grain is going to be continuous. It's going to wrap around the face and around the side from one point of view. Now, it's going to change the wood grain. Is that going? No, that's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. So that's exactly the way you want to lay it out. Now, by docking these completely against one another with no padding between them, now you can come over here to your optimization settings. In fact, I'm going to turn mine off first. Say okay. Let's look at just this piece in preview. And right now on these current settings, which are kind of arbitrary, it's at 5 millimeters. So what's that? Times 6, 300 millimeters a minute. I think if that's right. I'm trying to start using those millimeters per minute for you guys. So if that's 300 millimeters a minute, this would take 6 minutes and 49 seconds. But with those being docked and overlapping, you can come into your optimization settings and turn on remove overlapping lines. And this is a small project, but we went from 6:49 to now 4 minutes and 53 seconds. So a lot quicker in your overall cut time by removing your overlapping lines. And you can do that by positioning them tight together. It's going to conserve your material. It's going to save you time on the laser. It's a win-win-win. So that's how I design a box. And this was a long video, and it's been in real time. I'm not going to do any edits to this. I am going to be giving this file away on Laser Maker's Realm. And if you are a patron, I'm going to be I think actually I already have. If you're a patron, you already have this file and this file. Now this is another gift box, but this one is a slide gift box where I designed it where the gift card fits here and it slides into place. And this whole thing is one large template that you can personalize, engrave. And if you'll notice, look at the uniformity in the grains. That grain is all the same, both sides. It's all in how you lay it out. But in addition to this, my patrons got this one with a little bow on it, and then I had another one where it has I think it was a soccer ball on it. And then I even did another video for the patrons only where it shows how to edit this file, how to put bows on, put soccer balls on, footballs on. You know, you can add different graphics to that file. So, this has been a long one. If you're not a patron and you'd like to see all those other free files, I do not discriminate against my levels of patrons and supporters. There's a couple different tiers you can sign up for. I appreciate any support that I get. If it's in your budget to sign up only on the minimum tier, hey, great, thank you. But if you're downloading my project files and you're actually making these and selling them for profit, that's great too. I encourage you to do that. I do not put any kind of copyright on my files. If you can take them and improve on them, go for it. If you can take them and make them and sell them and make $1 million, kudos, great for you. I'm just not of the mindset to do that any longer. I was in the retail industry for entirely too long, and I just don't want to deal with that anymore. But if you want to take my files and you want to make $1 million selling them, great. Just remember this redneck that gave you that file for free, and maybe send me a little something something if you get rich off my stuff. But all of the tiers of my patrons, they all get the same benefits. I don't discriminate. The ones paying $20 a month don't get any more or less than the ones that can only do $3 a month. Excuse me. I recognize that the financial commitment is not equal. Someone who's making minimum wage and can only do $3 a month, it might be harder on them than somebody who's making 6 figures a year and doing $20 a month. So the financial burden is not equal, and so I don't discriminate. Everybody gets my same support, and I appreciate any and all support you can give at patreon.com/hobowithwood. Links in the show more section. If you want to do a super thanks, you know how to use those. Are right there underneath the video comment. I also have my PayPal information in the show more section. I thank you for watching. Hope you found this informative. Hope you learned something. Create some files. My email is hobowithwood@gmail.com. I don't think we are able to attach files yet in the comments. I wish we could, so you guys could share pictures in the comments of what you're creating. But hey, if you've done something and want to share it with me, hobowithwood@gmail.com. Send it to me. I'd love to see what you're doing. But until the next video, I am Steve, Hobo with Wood, and I'm out.